Rev up your engines! Okay, I'm no wimp. It's snowy and cold. It's 9 degrees out now, but I'm still out here working. And no, these aren't earmuffs. They're headphones. Because I gotta figure out what's making a noise in this Jeep. But they do work as earmuffs too. They keep my ears a little warmer. Now, he recently bought this used in Jacksonville, Florida, and drove it up here to Clarksville, Tennessee, where he lives. And he noticed as he was driving, he was starting to hear some noise coming from the back. Well, he really wasn't sure where it was coming from, but after rolling windows down and driving, he thinks it's on the back left. But it doesn't particularly have any play, and when he turns left or right, the noise doesn't change much. But that's because it's a Jeep. It's just a plain Jeep. It's not four-wheel drive. It's only rear-wheel drive. And being rear-wheel drive, there's a big old rear differential. You can see someone did a nice job with a nice polished aluminum cover. But the bearings, they're inside on the shaft on the left and the right. Unlike a more modern vehicle where the wheel bearings are built into the hub on the outside, where when you turn it strains them a lot, and it won't be affected that much by swerving from one side to the other. So, how are we going to figure out if that's what the noise is? Well, that's where these headphones come in, and my little noise kit. Now, the noise kit only cost about 80 bucks. It came with really crappy headphones. So I use these better ones, but it's pretty simple. Now, as you can see, this particular one comes with 6 different channels. You can plug in 6 of these, but we're only going to need 1 for this. It's true. Neither sleet, nor snow, nor rain stops the postman or old Scotty here. There's still a few of us old-timers left around here. Check it out. They know how to use chains here in Tennessee. And remember, here's a tip for everyone out there. Make sure you get this rubber band, because if you don't put it in, they'll fly right off. So, a nice winter tip here. So what we're going to do is, we'll crawl under here in the snow. Yes, in the snow. And the bearings are around in here. So what we'll do is, we'll clamp something on here if we can get some of this ice off. And then we'll open the back door, pull it from the inside, the door won't work from the outside. Now we don't want it dragging, so we'll pull this up here, and we don't want it touching the tire. So we'll hang that there, make sure it's not going to hit anything. It's far enough away now. We'll close the door so it stays in place. Then we'll go on the other side, which is easier to open. A little noise maker. We'll put it in the front one, number 1. Forget it, number 2. Number 1 was too hard. We get the old headphone jack that I'm sitting on. Plug that in. For some reason it had a plastic cover on it. You wonder about some of these Chinese companies. And we're going to turn it on. There we go. And take it for a ride. With the headphones on, of course. Lo and behold, yes, it's definitely coming from that wheel bearing. Man, that was the easiest diagnosis I ever did if it wasn't for the snow and the ice. The modern miracle of headphones and electronic devices saved the day. Now, the way these bearings are designed is solid axle. Inside the housing, there's a shaft on each side. The shafts have bearings in them. What happens to these are, it doesn't sound logical, but it's true. They're like any kind of a roller bearing, and they have grease seals on them to keep dirt from getting in. They're inside the differential assembly. Now, the differential has differential oil in it, thick oil, but it's still oil. And what happens on these are, the seals on the inside go bad, and then that differential oil gets into the bearings and ruins them. Now, you would think getting the oil on a bearing would be a good thing. It would lubricate it. But no, these bearings are made for grease to lubricate them. And if the differential oil gets on them, it washes that off, and it actually makes them wear, and that's what happened to this. So, my advice with this, because it's a 1998, so the thing is pretty old. It's 24 years old, so come on now, it's old. I would say you want to change both bearings and the seals on each side, because you don't want to chance it. If that seal's worn, it's in the same assembly as the other side, so the seals are going to be worn on both sides. And I'd say change the fluid and the differential, but I believe the guy already changed the fluid and the differential anyway. Here's another thing to be a little bit leery about when you buy a used vehicle, because I had the same thing happen to a guy with a Mercedes years ago. Now, this guy in Houston bought a Glattenwagen, the G-Wagon, the people mover, right? He thought he got a deal because he only paid like like 40 grand for it, right? You know, new, they can be over 200,000. Well, he went to way to the East Coast. He went to Atlanta from Houston, and he bought the stupid thing, and he drove it home. I said, why didn't you trail it home? Well, I said it was running, I drove it home. By the time he got to Houston, it was making these horrible noises. So he brought it to me, and I looked at the front. On those, they have a solid differential that's in the front, too. They're front and the back. And what happened was, the guy who owned that Geladenwagen in Atlanta never bothered to grease the front. These are different. These are sealed units. On the Mercedes, the front wheel drive ones, they have an actual little Allen plug you take out, and you gotta pack each joint with grease, with a grease gun. No one ever done that. Now, when he started driving, it didn't make any noise. Obviously, the guy in Atlanta hardly drove it at all. Those G-Wagons are more for show than anything else. But driving it from Atlanta to Houston, he said, I started hearing this horrible noise. Well, it turns out that it had ruined the bearings on it. And on that Mercedes, I couldn't even find a single Mercedes guy that would even repair them. They said, we only replaced the whole thing, and the whole job is going to cost $20-something thousand. Now, if he would have towed that vehicle to Houston and brought it to me to say, look, I just bought this, what do you think? I would have greased those things, because after he brought it, I did grease them. And they were completely empty on each side. But it was too late. He drove it from Atlanta to Houston and it ruined the bearings. So, if you're gonna buy used vehicles, you wanna make sure they're maintained, and if you don't know anything about the maintenance, you know what my advice is? Ship it to your house. Don't attempt to drive it the whole way, because you can do some serious damage. Now this, no, it's not serious damage. It needs axle bearings. It can easily be done and sealed. It's not like the Mercedes, which is insane. But you're always taking a gamble if you're buying a vehicle and driving it a long distance, because you never know if something's going to break. When it does break and it costs a fortune, you would have wished you didn't buy the vehicle in the first place. Think about either towing or shipping a vehicle if you're going to make it long distance, if you're buying something that's as old as this. But in this case, it's no big damage done. And with the help of these headphones and a little noise finder, we found out what it was immediately. Don't let people tell you, I can't figure out where the noise is coming from in your car. Something like this is like 80, 90 bucks for the kit. Get one yourself, you know, they're real handy. You can use them to find leaks in your pipes at your house too. Don't let people tell you they can't figure something out. Anything can be figured out if you got the right equipment and half a brain in your head. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Rio Theo says, I've got winter heating problems without a thermostat. I had to remove the thermostat in my car. I used a cardboard to block the air that gave me heat. 1993 Subaru stick shift. Why are the fans coming on cold weather when the engine temperature is not approaching warm? What could make it do that? All right. Well, here's the thing. Cars are made to keep your windows from defrosting. Almost all the cars out there these days are set up so when you put your car on defrost, it turns your heat on. But it also turns on your air conditioning, because air conditioning air is like drier than the Sahara Desert. So your windows don't fog up. I remember when I was a kid, I had an Opel, and of course it didn't have air conditioning. This is back in 1969. When you turn the heat on and defrost, all you got was heat. And this stupid thing in Niagara Falls, where it's often humid, would fog up in the winter all the time because it was warm air, but it was wet warm air, and it would fog up. So all the modern cars, when you turn them on defrost, it turns your air conditioning on and your heat, so you get the warm air, but also the dry air. Realize that heat is much stronger than air conditioning. So if you have it on full heat and full AC, once the engine's warmed up, you're going to feel warm air, because that hot air is super hot and the AC air isn't as strong, so you still get warm. The consequence of that is your car is turning the air conditioner on when you have the heat on the defrost. So it's going to turn the fan on. That's just the way it goes. When your air conditioner comes on, it also turns on the air conditioning evaporator fan, so the system works, right? That's just the way that it goes. If you're worried about it, you could just unplug the fans. Just remember to plug them back in when it gets hot so your car doesn't overheat. But that's the reason your fans are coming on, is because when you put it on defrost, it turns on the AC, which automatically turns your cooling fans on. It's designed that way. Normally, you're not going to notice any difference because the thermostat keeps your car from getting too cold, but you've taken it out. I just say, put your thermostat back in. That'll solve the problem. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.